Hey everybody, and welcome to Let's Look at Assault Android Cactus. This is a game that's been on my radar for a while. I know Nick and I believe Omrecker or Josh were playing it at some point a few months ago, coinciding with kind of the game's Greenlight campaign, but it is now available on Steam in an early access form. There's also a free demo available on Steam. So, you know, the caveat I always throw at the top here is if you don't agree with me or you think you won't agree with me, at the very least go check out the demo if you're interested. Assault Android Cactus is a twin-stick action arcade shooter that is currently in kind of a primitive form, and I don't mean that to be derisive because it's also very, very polished. It's a whole lot of fun, but there's a lot of stuff that is kind of just, it almost feels like a proof of concept to a certain extent right now, because as you can see, you know, the only mode that we have available to us is campaign. Endless battle and boss rush are not currently in the mode. Leaderboards are being added this week, I've been told, by the developers at Witchbeam, which is the three-person team that developed the game. Why don't we just get started here and we'll talk a little bit about the game as we play more and more of it. This is going for 15 bucks on Steam. Again, this is early access, so I need to add that kind of disclaimer at the top of the video, and you can even see it at the bottom right here. This is a pre-alpha building. I will say that as the pre-alpha build, or as pre-alpha builds go, this is one of the most polished games in this current state that I've ever seen in my entire life. So the kind of conceit of Assault Android Cactus is that we are playing as a variety of androids. You start with 4 of them, and that's Cactus, Holly, Lemon, and Coral. And then you, by beating the first boss battle, you also unlock Starch here. So, each one of these has a primary weapon as well as a secondary weapon. All of them feel very unique. Like, for example, Cactus is very much, I mean, obviously the game's named after her. She's kind of like your all-around assault class if we were playing like a Monday Night Combat or a squad-based shooter or something like that. Holly seems to be more of like a firepower type. Lemon, I don't really like how she plays, and Coral is like a really up-close and personal, like, brute class with a shotgun and a very short-range plasma field that does a lot of damage. And I haven't spent that much time with Starch because I'm really bad with her. We're gonna play as, we're gonna play as Holly. She's probably my best character. And this is how the campaign currently looks. I'm not sure if this is, how it will look in the final release of the game. But basically, blue levels seem to just be like standard defeat enemy waves. Red levels are bosses, and, to be honest with you, I haven't actually finished a yellow level yet. Game gets kind of tricky, so why don't we check this out? I guarantee that I've done this level at least a couple of times here. So, Assault Android Cactus, let's talk very quickly about what you're seeing on the screen right now, because this is going to be a little bit confusing to those of you who have never seen the game before. Basically, every level here takes place on a closed arena, but the arena is one of the coolest things about the game, is that the arenas do shift in both lighting and kind of their own physical landscape. Like, things will pop out of the ground, pits and chasms will appear. I'm not sure if we can actually fall into those, but wouldn't surprise me. There you go. You can see we've got some cover there. Basically, all I'm doing here, I'm using the 360 controller to play this because this is my preferred method for playing twin-stick shooters, as one might expect, given how much I use the 360 controller for basically everything that I possibly can justify using it for on the PC, which inevitably angers a whole bunch of people. As your character, you have a primary and a secondary weapon. Your primary weapon has unlimited ammunition, and you can fire it continuously. By the way, when enemies explode, they drop energy. We pick that up, and that powers up our weapon, making it stronger. It does max out pretty quickly, but if we die, it goes back to its initial power, I think. We also have a secondary weapon. Let me see if I can figure out how to get that out here. There we go. So that's a cannonball on this character, which does a lot more damage, and it also caused that meter to show up underneath us. And what that meter represents is that our weapon is overheating, and we're going to have to wait a second. Basically, it's just a cooldown on that. Now, different weapons have different cooldowns, and what I really like about this game is that it's not just like aesthetic character swaps. When you switch characters, there actually is a fairly enormous difference. I've really got to get a battery at some point or I'm going to die. There's one over here. There we go. Yeah, each character feels vastly different, and it's not just like, you can't even like get away most of the time with just playing the same style that you played as character A when you play as character B. Like, for example, we'll probably try out the a brawler class, like I said earlier, the very short-range, high-damage class, and you'll see that it's a very tricky kind of proposition. Oh, there's battery over here, come on. Okay. So every level has like just what I wanted to touch on there, of course, is that every character feels like markedly different. The other thing is that each level has kind of a primary and a secondary objective, or it has multiple objectives, because they're both very important. Ah, my cannonball got stopped. The primary objective, I suppose, is to kill all the enemies, but the secondary objective, and they're both... Oh, no, I'm going to die here. Oh, actually, I got the battery. Fantastic. The secondary objective is that battery meter at the top. If that goes down to 0, you lose the level. So you have to basically continue getting these battery power-ups that you'll find. They're green and they sit on the ground, and if you get those, they will charge, I believe, half of your battery each, which is really, like, essential. Like, that's kind of the driving force, is that you want to figure out which enemy has that battery power-up and kill them as soon as you can so that you don't end up putting yourself in dire circumstances. Obviously, I am in kind of dire circumstances right now. There we go, we finished the level. Kind of surprising. When I played that one off camera, I did not do very well. At the end of every level, you get kind of a score meter, which tells you how well you did. We got a B there. That's not so bad. Why don't we go to stage select, and then we will pick another android. What I really like about this game as well, loading times are crazy short. Like, seriously, really, really quick, which is awesome. For a game that looks this good, the loading times are so short. And, you know, they're loading in all sorts of enemies, and the environments look good, although they are closed arenas, so I guess maybe that's a little bit less taxing. But still, oh, do we have another boss fight here? It looks like we might. Okay, so I guess maybe the colors of the levels don't necessarily have, they're not necessarily representative, I guess, of what the actual type of the level is. Anyway, that was a very convoluted way of saying that. So we have to kill this boss. Unfortunately, I have taken this character who is very short range, so I have the shotgun. But the really cool thing about this character is this secondary weapon, which is this plasma field. Oh, one second, I botched it a little bit. I actually played this using the keyboard and mouse last night, so there we go. That's this plasma field right here, which basically just cuts up any enemies that are silly enough to get close to it. We can also pick up a number of power-ups on the ground here, as you can see. We're not doing very well against this boss right now. It's very much kind of like a bullet hell twin-stick shooter, which is awesome. I've never played a twin-stick shooter that's kind of like in the same vein as this. I'm getting my ass kicked. So you might be wondering, you know, what's going on with your health there? Because obviously you do have a health meter, but you were talking about, your battery being your primary concern. That is true. If your health goes down to 0, or if you get hit by one of those enormous objects like I have a couple times here, then the way that works, I don't want to use this character for this boss fight, but I'm glad I showed it off just a little bit. If your health goes down to 0, you have to tap the fire button repeatedly. You just get knocked down, essentially. The only way you die or fail a level is if your battery gets depleted, as you can see. So I don't like using this character for that level. I really like Cactus. I really like Holly. And, you know, Lemon's okay, but why don't we go with Cactus here? So Cactus has a standard kind of assault rifle or machine gun, as well as a flamethrower. And what's really cool is that, you know, even I already said that the like secondary weapons and primary weapons are totally different character to character. That's totally true, but also like they're even let's switch to our secondary here. There's even like differential cooldowns on each one. Like, I don't know if it's programmed so that like each one does the same amount of damage or something like that before it hits one level of cooldown. But you know, you can only fire one cannonball with Holly before your cooldown is up. Whereas you know, with Cactus, you can fire a pretty sizable number. Oh, this is a power-up that makes the enemies freeze for a second, which is really important. No, the battery disappeared. That's really bad. You really got to be vigilant about getting to those batteries. But yeah, you know, with Cactus, you can fire a decent amount of flamethrowers. I'm not sure if that's the proper conjugation. In order to do a little bit more damage and a little bit more crowd control. So I'm getting my ass kicked here. I'm probably going to fail this one again because I didn't get that early battery. That's okay, though. Oh, there's a battery over here, actually. No, it was okay. We did manage to get it. It was kind of close, though. Obviously, I got to fight my way out of here. Or I can just die, and, you know, that's one way to handle it. You may also be wondering what the heck's up with these, let me out of this circle, please. You may also be wondering what's up with these, like, power-ups that you see on the ground. There's, as far as I can remember, 3 or 4 power-ups that can drop. Again, I'm probably going to die here. I kind of want to go back with Holly. She's my favorite character in the game by far. Yeah, I suck. But I think with Holly and the cannonball and the, like, homing missile launcher, I should be able to make this work. I don't know if these are balanced. It might just be a personal preference thing. By the way, I should mention, if we go back to Android Select, this game does have local co-op in its current state, so you can play with up to 4 people, kind of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 Turtles in Time style. You can also play with 2 people if you want. I believe you can do all the campaign mode stuff together. That's roughly all there is to say about that, I would suppose. So we're going to go in here to Vespula, and hopefully we'll actually be able to win now that I'm using a character that I am a little bit more confident with. But yeah, I really have almost nothing negative to say about the game. That's about the game specifically, I guess I should say. The only negatives I have about the game are the same negatives I have about a lot of twin-stick shooters, which is, you know, it can get a little repetitive from time to time. The levels, they do a fairly good job of keeping things different with these boss fights, and the boss fights are actually totally cool. The first one was awesome as well. But, you know, the boss fights, they're not like puzzle boss fights, at least not so far. They do come down to kind of like just filling an enemy with bullets. until they kind of say, Uncle, please tell me that's going to hit. So, okay, it took out a few. So yeah, you know, it can be a little bit repetitive. It's the same criticism I have about a lot of beat-em-ups, where it's just like, okay, you know, we're doing the same thing over and over, and that's fine. But this is much more of a score attacky type game than I guess your average beat-em-up would be. I can't get in here, I suppose, so that's going to be an issue. Can I get a battery out of this? If not, I guess we'll play an earlier level. Oh, the battery's over there! Ah, come on! That's so bad. All right, well, maybe we'll just try... You know what? Let's go to Android Select. Now I'm going to stick with Holly for now, because she is my favorite character. But we'll fight the earlier boss in the game. Because I know that I can reliably beat him. It's a game that gets tricky. It's not just a game that is... about like sinking time into. And what I really like about a game like this, I'm just gonna sneak by the dialogue here, it's a little bit different than a game like, what was that last Puppy Games, that twin stick shooter that came out that was like totally good, but also, it's like Titan Attacks, or it wasn't Revenge of the Titans. Anyway, I should have researched that before I started the video. But the Puppy Games, you know the guys, came out with the a similar game to this, like a Robotron style twin stick shooter. And, you know, it was fine, but at the same time, it was, like, entirely focused on score attacking. This has a nice mix of, like, score attacking if you want it, but also, you know, it's enough of a challenge to just finish the levels. And there is a little bit of a narrative or a campaign or a true story mode going on as well. Okay, that was a little scary. Please drop a battery. Enormous, man. Cannonball, thank you very much. So usually you have to get to, like, a certain damage threshold with these guys, and then you'll, get that battery. So I was saying earlier, you know, in terms of the power-ups in the game, that there is a power-up that makes you run faster, like this one. It might also accelerate your shots, but I can't verify that. Should really be shooting my secondary powerful weapon more often so that it can do more damage. It would be nice if I could actually hit the enemy with it too. That's my bad, though. Should probably get some more mouse action going here, so my movements are a little bit more precise, or my aiming is a little bit more precise. But yeah, there's also one that freezes all the enemies or disables them for a period of time. And there is one that gives you, like, these turrets that hang out near you, and, oh, Jesus, I just got crushed there. The turrets that hang out near you are probably my favorite, just because they help so much with crowd control. It's like having a bunch of familiars in Isaac. So far, this is going really well. Because I'm not sure if I explained this clearly, there is no, like, RPG leveling style mechanic in the game, so it's not like, you know, after you beat 10 missions, you're going to level up your damage, and you're going to start doing better, and you'll be able to do higher scores on this, on earlier missions, I should say. It's very much like a pure score attacking game where, you know, you start at level 1 or level 0 every single time, and then you work your way up, which is, you know, my preferred way to handle a game like this. Thank you very much. I also really like the battery mechanic adds, like, a kind of interesting style of survival into the game versus just standard, like, you have a health bar or you can't get hit at all. And it's still difficult, you know, hopefully that's coming through here. You might just think that I'm absolutely terrible. You're not necessarily wrong, but do keep in mind that I, you know, play a lot of twin-stick shooters. I mean, Isaac itself is a twin-stick shooter. It's not really a bullet hell, but, you know, I'm actually all right at bullet hell games, which might surprise you. Probably shouldn't believe anything I say. You should just take my, you know, you should find a video of Jamestown or something. But in any case, back it up here. We should be done with this fight. That was much, much easier, actually. In any case, yeah, I like Assault Android Cactus a lot. Enough that even though I've said basically my entire piece here, I am probably going to play one more level just because I want to show off, you know, another stage, basically. Sorry, I almost used a very confusing terminology there. So let's use one more android, because it's nice to show off how different each one is. And we'll play a relatively early level here. We'll play Hive. Oh, I accidentally went there. And then check out how fast these loading screens are. We just loaded into the level. Go to Android Select. Takes like 2 seconds. I know that's like a really weird thing to be like really titillated by, but seriously, it's really nice when you're like, oh, I made a mistake, and then it doesn't take, you know, even 10 seconds to fix it. It's really quick. So we're playing a Starch now. Starch's primary weapon is this laser. You know, if you've ever played Contra, you're probably familiar with a lot of the weapon types. There's also a unit that has like a spread shot type plus a rocket launcher. But I really like Holly, the one I've been using a lot, because the cannonball does a ton of damage, and the primary weapon is like heat-seeking micro missiles, which essentially allow you to tear up enemies without even firing in their... as long as you fire in their general direction, you should be okay. Good, we shut down all the enemies. I forget what Starch's secondary weapon is. It's does she have the rocket? Oh, no, she has the micro missile, sorry. But Holly's is still like a heat-seeking missile launcher. Anyway, we gotta get this battery. Yeah, here's the thing that I'll say about Assault Android Cactus. I like it a lot. The one complaint I have is that, you know, Is it worth $15 in its current state? That's not necessarily for me to decide. That's more of a you on a personal level type thing. I'm just showing the game off in its current state because it is early access. I think it's a good game. I think 15 bucks might be a little bit expensive for it in its current state. Obviously, you know, complaints that everyone is going to have. I would love to see online multiplayer added in this if it's not planned to exist. Even if it is planned to exist, obviously, I'd love to see it. But this is actually the worst level for Starch because these blocks actually block these micro missiles occasionally because they fly out from the sides. Anyway, we're getting a huge chain here, though, so maybe we'll actually be able to get above a D on a level for once. But yeah, apart from that, you know, sometimes it's a little bit repetitive and a little bit shallow, but there's nothing wrong with shallowness necessarily when it's fairly joyful as it is here. Where the heck is the battery? I must have missed the battery. That's the problem with talking over a game like this is that the lady calls out prompts. She'll be like, battery over here, and I'm like, oh, well, I messed it up. Why don't we use the last character then, because we've used almost everybody. We'll use Lemon with the spread shot and the rocket launcher. Probably my least favorite character, so I don't expect that we'll be able to succeed here. Of course, you know, I love the spread shot, one of my favorite weapons from action games. One of my favorite trope weapons. I'm not even sure if that makes any sense, but yeah, the problem is I should focus a little bit more on dodging, even though when you die, you don't actually fail the mission. You only fail it when your battery depletes. It does power you down, and when you power down, it takes you longer to kill enemies. When it takes you longer to kill enemies, it's a lot... Oh, no. It's a lot harder for you to kill them quickly and get your battery unlocked, which is obviously necessary. See, like, for example, there, that's going to be an issue for me. That is an accelerate power-up, which is actually pretty nice. But yeah, I'm probably going to fail this mission again if I had to guess, but we'll fire some rockets in here just in case. I think the advantage of Lemon as a character might be that her secondary weapon, you can fire like 4 rockets instead of just like 1 cannonball, as you can with Holly. But, you know, the problem is the rockets explode on contact, whereas the cannonball, it's kind of like a Polyphemus shot from Isaac or something. It goes right through the enemy. So we'll keep shooting down these quadcopters. Well, actually, they're like duocopters. What is it? These are new things, right? Like, Radio Shack came out with these, or the U.S. Army came out with them. I always get those two entities confused. Now it's like Splinter Cell's got the tri-rotor. Call of Duty has the quadcopter. I don't know, man. Can we just have a monocopter again? I long for those unicopter days when life seemed so simple back then. So hopefully we can actually complete a mission here. I will say that it is not like... every level has exactly the same enemy types. Again, you can see how many levels I've played. It's probably on the order of maybe a dozen. And the levels have been totally different with respect to enemy composition. Oh, there is a battery. And those moments are really tense. You can usually, at least in the early game, miss one battery power-up and be sort of okay as long as you're struggling. But you're going to be down to the wire. You're going to be like, okay, I've got like 5% battery life and the battery just appeared. I don't have an accelerate power-up and I've got to get like all the way across the map to deal with it. Okay, this is a lot better. Oh, there we go. We got lucky that we were right next to the enemy there. We're doing a lot better in the sense that I haven't died nearly as much on this one, so I am actually able to get my power up pretty high, which is very nice. I usually try to go for the bosses first because they have a tendency to be the ones that drop the batteries. Oh, come on. There we go. So we actually are in a pretty good position here. Once you get down to the end of the level, it will give you like not a timer, but like a tally, and it'll be like how many enemies are remaining. 5, 6, 7, and then it'll count down. That was obviously counting up. As always, do as I say, not as I do. Accelerate is actually a really useful power-up as well. It's like a speed upgrade in Isaac. It allows you to dodge a little bit more effectively. Okay, and also what I really like about this is that in a lot of games like this, and it's not saying that this is necessarily a bad thing when games do this, but you spend a lot of your time dodging, but also trying to actively pick up power-ups, which is always frustrating for me because I I want to focus on one thing at a time. We did beat the level there, good. In this, you kind of have like a permanent like magnet ability where the power-ups just get sucked into you, which is very positive. We got an A on that, that's awesome. Let's go back to the main menu here. And, yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about Assault Android Cactus in its current state. Really like it a lot. One caveat, $15, a little bit expensive for a game like this. Keep in mind it is in early access, so it's a work in progress. I think you could definitely get, if you're a twin-stick shooter fan, you can definitely get several hours of enjoyment out of it in its current state, especially if you have someone to play local co-op with. I know that's a big focus for the developers. And, you know, the future looks bright. You can only go up from here, basically, considering the game is already on Steam, already super polished, already a ton of fun to play, even just in its basic mechanics. But also, you know, the boss fights are totally awesome. I love that each character is differential. I'm looking forward to unlocking more of them. And I think this is a totally polished game. It's the kind of thing where, you know, if you think, $15 is a little bit too expensive for this experience in its current state. There's nothing I can really say to convince you. I'm not even necessarily saying you're wrong, but keep an eye on Assault Android Cactus as time goes on, as development continues, and maybe if you're on the fence as the game comes down in price around Steam sales or something like that. As always, there will be a link in the video description below to check out the game on Steam if you are interested. There is a free demo on Steam, which I would encourage you to check out as well. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.